Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and today I'm coming back to you guys with another Hall Effect board. I know it's a lot this week, but we're gonna have to thank KeepForce. They actually sent me out the IPI Aurora 75, and I've heard a lot of good things about this, and the board looked pretty interesting, like the design, and the build, and the sound. So we're gonna have to see how this is. We're gonna have to go in the unboxing first, and really see what we're getting with this whole package. But please, make sure to like and subscribe, and come check out the Discord below, and let's get right into this. So starting off with the unboxing of the IPI Aurora 75. Aurora. My pronunciation obviously being a little bit off there. We have to thank KeepForce for sending this out, because they're the ones that were actually ones who reached out to me to see what this board would be like for myself, and I really was curious because I heard a lot of good things about this board. A lot of people saying that it's probably one of the best boards in terms of sound out there. So we got to take a look. Overall, I really did love the design. Like when I looked at the photos and stuff, just from the photos themselves, it looked super nice, like really well done. You do get a strap. You do have a braided cable. It's just a USB 3.0 to USB-C though. So that's something that I think maybe it would have been nice to have a C to C with the adapter. You also get a switch puller, keycap puller. You get a bunch of extra switches. You also get an extra keycap, which is kind of interesting. And you also get a switch puller and keycap puller. Overall, what you get with this box, in terms of the packaging wise, packaging is actually pretty decent. It's a very thick box, and all the things that's put inside with like an accessories box is quite nice. I think in general, any company that is doing this kind of stuff should really focus on having an accessories box. It just really helps with the whole idea of like an unboxing, and you want a nice packaging. The board itself is also wrapped completely, which is really nice. And the fact is you get a manual in there. It's just like a single page of paper, which provides some information for yourselves. Overall, not a bad unboxing experience, especially with considering like the price of this board. Now, this board itself is very, very nice. Like I have to admit that the look of it, like the design of the board, super well done. I really appreciate like all this machining that they did. There are parts of this board that I'm going to say that it doesn't feel like it was very well machined though. Like the sides do feel a little bit more rigid. It kind of feels more raw material wise, but the back of it and like the front and the top portions is very, very nicely done. And I'm really excited to hear what this sounds like, but we'll do a weight test first and see how much it weighs before I go into it. And it weighs 1.7 kg. Now time to look into the board, do a teardown. We're going to quickly look at the plate itself, which is like a PC plate, no flex cuts on it, which is very nice to see. I mean, in general, that's the basics of like HE boards. There is no flex cuts on them. And it's really easy to open up. As you saw, it's a quick release, and it has a magnetic prong connection, which is very cool to see. Don't think I've ever seen it before. No flex cuts on the PCB either. And one thing I noticed really cool of this board is the fact that the PCB and the plate has this little casing around it, which I found very, very interesting. The PCB and the plate are both 1.5 millimeters, but very interesting just how it's completely covered with like this plastic covering, which might also help actually with the whole sound dampening. Maybe that is something that they did for that purpose. The bottom foam is very thick at 2.9 millimeters, like almost 3 millimeters. And we're going to open it up, of course, just to take a look to see what like this whole board's all about. So the weight itself actually is removable, and that's where the daughter board is going to be. Overall, this whole thing is actually machined as a one whole piece, which is very interesting. It's really well done in terms of that. And you see the weight here with the daughter board just in the small section on the top left. So the USB port is going to be on the top left side. Now we're going to do a quick mod, 2-layer tape mod, and then I want to give you guys a sound test comparing the stock and the modded version of this board. Now, we've done the unboxing and sound tests and everything for the IPI Aurora 75. And what are my thoughts? Honestly, quite impressed. I heard the sound test and I thought, you know, this is going to be like a really nice sounding board. And honestly, it is really nice. It's probably one of the best sounding boards pre-built that I've ever received. Super cool that how they did it. I love the design and colors out of it. It really reminds you of the Aurora, and the whole like metallic design of this thing is incredible. It is quite sharp though, so I'm not going to say to you guys that it's cut really well. It's actually not going to be as cut perfectly or CNC as say some of the other boards or higher quality boards out there. Definitely has a little bit of sharp edges that I can feel on the sides. But overall, quite impressed and really liking how this board is designed. We're going to really have to go into it a little bit more in terms of the pros and cons that I've seen, and of course software and gaming performance with it. So let's go right into that. So let's take a look a little bit more in terms of this board and what are my thoughts. Overall, the machining is quite well done in terms of most of this board. Pretty much the back side, the front, the top as well are all well machined. Very nice design with it. Has like this little holograph design to the back of it, and it just looks and reminds you of the Aurora. The CNC on the back, on the top portion, as you can see, is very smooth. It's just the side portions here. They're quite rigid. It feels like it's a bit more of like a raw material. Doesn't seem like they did a lot of machining towards it in terms of like making it smoother or anything like that. It does feel quite rough. It actually almost feels maybe a little bit too rough, and has like a little bit of that almost like a dusty feeling. That's the way I'd like to mention it in terms of that. But overall, very well done board, very nicely designed. As you can see there with the quick release, very easy to open up, very easy to get the PCB and the board out, meaning you can easily modify it and do stuff easily. One thing though, I would say if you do add tape mods, just be careful because you might void warranties. That's something you should always be careful about. But also the other thing is the fact that the board itself doesn't really need the tape mod. It's already sounding very great. It doesn't do too much for the sound. And I think one of the things I felt was that it's hard to fully put back in because the way that the board fits into the case, and then to close it off with like the quick release, it's just a little bit tight for space. The bottom foam is incredibly thick, like incredibly thick. So you don't really have to worry about that. And lining it up, as you can see there, right? Trying to make sure everything lines up properly to fit it back in. It's just a little bit of work. You just have to make sure all the gasket mounts are actually fully put in. And yes, this is a gasket mounted board. I do really like what they did. I mean, it sounds phenomenal. And of course, let me give you a sound test of the board. And that was just like testing to see what kind of metal, like how good the, aluminum is going to be in terms of the build. And you don't get like a ton of the pinging sound. You do have a little bit of a hollow sound though that kind of, vibrates throughout the whole board. So that's something to keep in mind. but the board itself feels very nice to type on. I would say from a lot of different boards that I've tested, it actually feels very good in terms of a stock switch. I would say Epilmaker's Zero switch is still better, but this is a very good one. Now, in terms of how loud the board is like typing wise, you're looking at getting on the loud side 68 decibels, but on the low end like 63, 62. So it's not too loud of a board, but it's still gonna be on a little bit of the louder side. And I think, yeah, the switch and this board is very interesting. It's a very nicely done switch, very thocky, right? This is giving you that like full on thock type build. So they did a good job with this, and I heard a lot of good things about this, people mentioning how it really did feel like one of the best switches they tried for HE, and I see why. In terms of the sound profile, yeah, it's like that deep thock, but in terms of like the top out sound, it's not the greatest. I'm gonna be honest, it's not the greatest in terms of the top out. It's still a lot. It's quite loud as well. And I think that is the one thing that is kind of making this not the perfect switch. But let's do a backlight test. And as you can see, the backlighting on this board is just incredibly bright. It's so bright. Like, I'm so shocked of how bright this board could be. Like, the lighting comes through really nicely. You have a transparent switch, which really provides like a good lighting, and the lighting's everywhere. You can get the lighting to be very dim, but not like, you won't even, in the dim side, it's not even that dim. It's still pretty bright, and the bright is super bright. And then you have even side lightings, which is awesome. Now, as you can see here, currently it's on price for $109, but you know, normal price is $139. The other ones are sold out. I think the other colors would have been super nice. I had to get this one because this was the only one they had stock at the time. It did take a while to get to me though. So even though I'm reviewing a model, it took like maybe 2 months to get to me. So it did take a really long time to actually receive this board. Overall, I think the black and gold though looks incredible. Like from the photos, I would really highly recommend that. And this board has 8K, and it's going to be interesting to see, like, of course, with the software more, what it's like. Now, you just have to go into the software section. You can open it up. It is a web app. It's a basic web app, I would say. It doesn't have a lot of different functionalities to it, but it is simple. You can do those changes that you need to. You can go to the function layers and overall default layer. The only thing is though, I could not find anywhere to change the profiles. So adding a adding a key for like shortcut for profiles to change from profile 1, 2, or 3, that I couldn't find it anywhere. This is something that they definitely need to update. This is important because any Hall effect board users, we really need to have that kind of simple way to change the profiles instead of going into the web app to change it. I was trying to see if there could be anything found, but unfortunately, there is no way to do that. And honestly, this is something that needs to be done. I don't know why companies are having a hard time figuring out that it is an important feature, because when you're typing and when you're gaming, it's just different. The actuations are different. Another thing I noticed is that you don't get to see your actuation settings here. They should really change this and update the software for that so that you can actually easily see every single key's actuation points settings instead of having to hover over and then let it load. That is not the best way to do Hall effect software. You want to be able to see it all. This is something that they need to update. I think they did a decent job with this, with like, it is not hard to use this web app, and like, it's not hard to do the settings, but it's something that's so important, right? Like, this is definitely a thing that really becomes important when you are wanting to see like where everything's at and have an easy way of setting things up. You do get like the extra, advanced settings, so you can do SOCD, dynamic keystroke, mod tap, toggle tap, things like that. And overall, you can also change the polling rates, so you can go from like 1000, 8K, whatever polling rate you need to. Of course, depending on the computer you use, maybe 8K is not going to work for you. You can maybe use 4K, so you can change these things in the software. And as you can see, when I use Keyboard Inspector to quickly test it, you will also see that, yeah, it's like, it's getting the 8K. It's not, the numbers are going to be a little bit high because of the fact that the scan rate's going to be high. So the way that it tests, it's not going to be perfect showing the exact 8K, but we are getting something for that, which shows that it is like going to be getting 8K. Now, going into gaming and like really trying and testing it out. So one thing that I noticed is that, as you can see here, like I set it up perfectly. So I used Super Glide Tester just to make sure I was having the settings correct with the timing wise for Super Glides. And it's not hard to do super glides, like, but it will take some time to get used to. The keyboard profile in terms of like the front end is gonna be something that I personally haven't felt gotten super used to. It's not super high, but it's not like super low either, and it's just something that, you know, over time, every board that you try, it's gonna take some time to get used to. But as you can see, like, once I start to pull it off, I can start pulling it off. And the reason I use a shotgun to do this is because I know that shotguns have, in Apex Legends specifically, like, you can get a gold boat, and when you do pull off a super glide, it actually auto reloads. So that's like a way for me to test to make sure that I am pulling it off, and also show that I am. And one thing too, picking up items super quick when you have the actuation low. And this is another test I like to do, which is going to be, it has recoil in general in games, and in Apex Legends, when you move around, it actually resets that recoil a little bit, so it makes it easier. If you spam AD with your guns in Apex Legends, it actually also does that a little bit as well, so recoil smoothing. And I think specifically for Hall effects, it's the only ones that work. Mechanical keyboards actually doesn't work that well for it. So very good to test. Now let's look at Valorant and see how SOCD works and make sure that it does work. So see, this is right now regular, no SOCD turned on, no like rappy snappy. And whenever you press the X key, you're just gonna have a break in between. Like your movement completely stops. You have that break in between when you press A or to D, and then you press the next key. It's an automatic stop before you can actually start going into the movement again. So if we change it up and turn on SOCD, we can actually see and make sure that it does work. So we go to advanced keys, we're going to click into advanced key settings, and then change up the specific settings that we want. For some reason, even though it was in advanced keys, it was like having a weird time loading. But turn on SOCD, press A and D, press save, make sure it's on last input, because that's what I think a lot of people use, which is going to be this. And when you press A and then you press D, it just sticks with the last key that you held, so then you can have a constant movement, and you just have to time in between for yourself by pressing the keys or letting go of a key to have that break in between. Or if you press a key, when you press the next key, even though it continues, there's still a point there where it has a small break in there. But now let's compare this with other boards out there. So here is my spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet that I use to kind of compare and see what this board lands in terms of my perspective. And I've tried so many Hall Effect boards. Like you can see this list here. To be fair, this list doesn't even have every single board that I've tried for Hall Effect. I think overall, the pricing wise, 139 is reasonable, but it's a little bit pricey when you compare it with, say, some of the other boards out there, like the TMR from Wamir, the SK75, and you have the other boards out there like on budget sides for like under $100. You might think 139 may be a little bit on the pricier side, especially when you compare it with like a Sonic HE as well. It is on sale for $109 though, but it has a lot that it's going for it. This board has the magnetic prong connection, which is really cool, very easy to connect using the board. And the fact is, it sounds amazing. It's probably the best sounding board that I've tried in terms of a Hall Effect board. The software though, I have to give it 7.5 out of 10 because it's lacking certain features like profile changing, and also the fact that you can't see all the actuation points easily. And sound wise, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Like it's probably one of the higher sounds that I'm actually giving it in terms of rating, because it just sounded really that good. I would say if it just didn't have that much of the top out sound and it felt more like a mechanical keyboard, I would give it like a 9.5. But this is where it lands, and I think it's a very good board that you should check out. Hope this video helped you guys to see if the IPI Aurora 75 is a board that you should grab. I'll have the links in the description. Really gotta admit that it is one of the nicest sounding pre-builds for Hall Effect boards that I've tried. Still has that top out issue though, so I'm not gonna deny that. You should go check it out though if you're interested. It has a nice deep sound profile and it has a cool design to it for sure. Please go check out the other videos I got, and I'd love to have you guys join the Discord to really, communicate, get to know you guys a little bit more, and of course, hear you guys' thoughts and ways that I can improve this channel or different things I could do. So I'd love to see you guys there, and I'll have to catch you guys next time.